All right, team. Good morning. Good morning. How is everyone doing? Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me see. Let me see. A lot of familiar faces as well. Love to see it. Love to see it. Starting early this week. Yeah, I thought already trading on Sunday. How are you, Ari? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you, Bobby. How are you? How are you, sir? Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening. It's a lot of different time zones here. A lot of different time zones. ICT just joined. That would be crazy. Is that true? That's crazy. All right. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Greetings from Holland. Oi. The good old country. The good old Holland. Love to see it. But your Market Mastery series was phenomenal and a game changer. I really appreciate your efforts to make this happen. Love from France. Thank you, my man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Ari, do you remember me? Of course I do, Mac. Of course, of course. Of course I do. You were here for a long time. A very long time. Thank you for the last video of Market Mastery. I'm sure that my calendar will be full of obstacles, but I will make sure to be positive all the time. Thanks for always inspiring us. Thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, I emailed you several times this week. I would like to mention Derek is an excellent assistant. How do you feel, Aro? Yeah, Derek, to be honest, if you're not familiar with Derek, Derek helps me with my emails, etc. As well. If you DM me on Instagram, most likely Derek will respond to you because he's my assistant. He helps. Perfect. Great guy. Great guy. I feel great. Thank you. I feel great. How are you? How are you, sir? Thanks for all you do. I watch IT videos multiple times and you have clarified so much coming from California. Thank you. The beautiful California. I would love to visit one day. From Belgium and Spain at the same time. Oh yeah. Love it. Love to see it. Enjoy the mentorship. Thanks for the great content. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for the positivity. That means a lot. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Love to hear, Claudio. Which do you how long does the subtitles take? I'm not too sure of that actually. I'm not aware of that. Is that the English subtitles takes a while? I imagine. Let me see. You affect the trading community so positively. The value you provide on YouTube is really shit. I would pay a lot for real shit, bro. Thank you, my man. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. I'm glad you're feeling better. Missed you last week. Yeah, last week I was not on the chart. Let's put it that way. Let me pull off this ad actually. I was not on the chart. Not that actively. I was a little bit sick as well. So it is what it is. To be honest, I don't think we really missed a lot. The week itself was not that great, at least in my opinion. From what we already saw in the economic calendar, etc., was just not the best trading week overall. So not too crazy. You sound kind of tired. I'm always tired. Always a little bit tired in the morning. Always for me, it's morning. So I would say I'm the most energetic right now, but but I'm okay. I'm perfectly fine. Oh yeah. Keep the consistency, Ario. I like for real. You're changing lives, so I sure hope so. Thank you, my man. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Can you explain what you mean yesterday? Video that live trade as soon as possible. Yeah, so that's a great question, and what I mean by that is usually people they go on different cycles. I've also been there, so it's purely speaking from my experience. Again, I'm not making fun of anyone. If anything, I'm making fun of myself. Is that in my experience from what I did is I started backtesting first because people told me you need to backtest before you dive into the market. And after backtesting, people told me you need to demo trade before you dive into the market. And I got so comfortable in backtesting, and I got so comfortable as well in demo trading that it was almost, it was scarier than just diving into live trading at first. And I built a lot of sort of hype around it and a lot of scared mentality around the fact that live trading for me was just a no-go almost. And well, if you want to audio cuts off here and there, let me see really quick. Let me know if I'm good. Let me know, please. Audio failing. Oi. That would be one thing. That would be not audio is fine. Let me know. That would be a shame. It's good now. All right, good, perfect. Then I'll continue with my story first. That I started backtesting, demo trading, and essentially if you want to make money from trading or at least be profitable in some way, then you need to live trade. So for me, how I learn things currently, and from what I notice as well through a lot of backtesting and demo, is that it just doesn't help as much as live trading. Live trading is literally doing it. And so I would advise to live trade as soon as possible. So actually put some money on the line. Not financial advice, but it doesn't have to be a crazy amount, right? It can be as little as possible. What's the best alternative to backtesting? Yeah, the only thing that I would advise to do, and that is for case studies, etc., deep work sessions, you can hindsight backtest. So for example, we did a deep work session here for the MMT yesterday, right there. And that's perfectly fine, hindsight backtesting, but actually simulating, sort of getting the idea of live trading through backtesting, that's not going to work. I'm not going to sit here and go off the monthly right there to go into the 4 hour to now try to trade this, because it's just not similar to live trading conditions at all. Patterns though can be found through hindsight backtesting, but live trading conditions or trying to simulate that's not something you would want to do, in my opinion. And that's just purely from my experience though. Is M15, M5, M1 is enough for scalping? For sure, 100%. Make sure everything is in context though. It's quite important. But that's fine. That is perfectly fine. All right, let's dive into the forecast first before we go over other questions as well. And feel free to leave behind any questions. I'll try my best to answer all of them after the forecast. Right here, what we are seeing, let's take a look at the economic calendar first, because there's a reason why I have the economic calendar sitting right there. If we are talking about the US dollar, then the economic calendar, the time is quite supporting the ID. So that is quite interesting actually, because we have US dollar orange folder news on Monday right there, which is, it's all right, but I don't really want to trade it. I want to wait Monday to then potentially get into action on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Ideally later on in the week, because the later on in the week, the more clear the weekly expansion will likely be. Then on Tuesday, we have US dollar red folder news. Wednesday, US dollar red folder news. Thursday, the same. Friday, the same. That's all perfectly fine tradable. So that is, you can trade that before, during, after, whenever you want to. So that is very nice actually time-wise, where last week, if we take a quick look at last week overall was just, my expectations were very low for that week. I took 2 trades on Thursday, but there's a very small time window that I could actually allow myself to take trades, which was only Thursday actually. So it was not the greatest economic calendar week, where this week is looking a lot better right here. The only thing we now need is, again, we need price to agree, right? So if we need price to agree, what are we seeing? Well, on the dollar, on the monthly time frame right here, we have a very interesting thing, and this is actually something I want to dive deeper into in next videos as well. It's looking at candles, because on the monthly, you're not necessarily looking at what can we do from a market structure standpoint right here. Could that be beneficial? Yeah, it could be beneficial, but that is going to take potential years, right, to play out. where we're only looking to trade the next month because, well, I'm speaking as a general rule of thumb. Most of us are day traders, scalpers, etc. Even swing traders, you would only look at the monthly candle the next monthly candle is doing. So what can the next monthly candle do? Well, right here, if we want to continue lower, then we have a beautiful setup here on the monthly. Why? Because we are rejecting perfectly off of that monthly fair value gap right there with that long wick right there at the top. Failing to create an expansion phase of bullish fair value gap, most likely in 4 days and 11 hours, we close with that candle right there. So that is looking quite promising to continue lower. The only thing is, and this is where it's a little bit of a dilemma, and I'll tell you why. On the weekly, nothing much going on. We came into the weekly fair value gap right there, which is not strong enough to push price higher. And we can see that we have a long wick at the bottom though. And the thing I want you to pay attention to is the daily right here. Because the daily has not created a daily fair value gap lower just yet. Which at first, and I believe, when was the last time we did a forecast actually? It was, I believe, this time right here, this candle right there. And in this week, when we saw this move higher right there, and we came into a weekly order block right there to the left as well, then we saw that we were not offering fair value anymore, and we were seeking liquidity actually. The failure of this fair value gap being created, that daily fair value gap lower right there, was not too crazy. This right here, we failed to create a daily fair value gap lower right there. Was not too crazy. It was, we saw it coming in a sense. So we could still continue lower right there. But afterwards, not creating a new daily value gap again, that makes it a little bit suspicious. And that is just overall a little bit more difficult to navigate, because then the drawn liquidity might be very clear. Our bias step that we have in our trading plan, or I have in my trading plan, might be very clear, because I do think we can still continue lower. Where are we going to continue lower from? I'm not too sure currently. So on the 4 hour, what we are seeing after reaching these lows right here, and I'm aiming at these lows right there, we see a sweep of liquidity. And that's a perfect sweep of liquidity, like we teach it, right? Fair value gap in, fair value gap out right there. That's a perfect sweep. So this might even continue higher if we get 4 hour fair value gaps higher right there. So it's a lot of waiting currently that we have to do. And especially for this Monday and that Tuesday, if Tuesday is not too clear yet on what we are going to do, I will still want to wait, because time is agreeing and we can allow ourselves to wait a little bit longer here for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, if they do clear up. And again, you only need one really clear day where you can make all of your profits for that month. So that's very important to understand. So right here, let me actually maximize the chart for sure. Let me put this on the side. Let me close it actually right there. Perfect. So this is exactly what we want to wait for right here. If we do want to continue higher, bullish 4 hour fair value gap, ideally right here. My mouse wants to also show that right there. But ideally continuing lower, which aligns with the monthly right there, could be very nice, because then we have monthly contacts going lower, 4 hour fair value gaps going lower, disrespecting that sweep. That would be very nice as well. Then, taking this into account and looking at the other instruments, let's look at ES and NASDAQ first right here. ES, it's quite simple for me, because if we take a look at the dollar, if we take a look at the daily right here, and on the daily we are seeing a fair value area right here. My mouse does not really want to work. All right, perfect. Then we are seeing a daily fair value gap sitting right there as well with the fair value area. So the overlapping fair value area right there is what we can continue higher off of right now with the daily fair value gap as well. So we can sort of play around with that. And what I mean, you can trade towards it, you can also trade off of it. So this is exactly what I also want to wait for, ideally, fair value area to continue higher off of that. That's quite interesting. Now, NASDAQ and YM, it's a little bit different because they're in a different position right here. Where NASDAQ, we have to make sure that this is not a sweep right there of the highs. How do we become certain of that? Well, the daily fair value gap right here is ideally where we would already want to see an immediate push higher right there. I would prefer, if you were to trade one of them, I would prefer to trade ES right there for the indices. NASDAQ can also be traded for sure, but I would be a little bit more careful right here with this daily fair value gap, since we are sweeping a high potentially right there. So YM right here, let's see, same exact position as ES as well. Fair value area, which is this thick line right there with the daily fair value gap that we have right there, which we can simply continue higher off of as well. Of course, we would have to see how we reject off of those areas, right? So going into the 1 hour, potentially going into the 15-minute to see, do we support the ID on those timeframes to continue higher off of that? But the reason why we use this fair value area is as well because right here, when we do come into that fair value area, that's the ideal place where we immediately continue higher from. If that's not the place we continue higher from, then most likely we are going to have a big retracement, which then turns into not offering fair value. That is then turned into seeking liquidity, potentially continuing lower, right? So it's one of those two things. And that's why we have to refine the area that we want to continue higher from, which is the fair value area right there. DAX right here. DAX, again, the long lost brother of the other indices. You can simply look to follow through on this daily fair value gap, where I would not expect a bigger retracement. So I have this order block right there, which can also be seen as the fair value area. I would not expect a retracement into that. And the reason for that is because that's quite a big retracement to make. If ES, etc. also makes that retracement right there, then ES will likely already reach the fair value area to then continue higher off of that. Why is that important? Because if ES and NASDAQ and YM are already ready to continue higher, DAX will also just follow that. Meaning that DAX might not have a big retracement, only retrace into the daily value gap to then continue higher off of that. Because it's simply going to follow what the other indices are doing as well. So this daily value gap could be quite interesting. Then Australian dollar, US dollar, and for every Forex major right here, it's quite interesting. And let me fully go over this. Let me see. Let me delete everything on my chart right here. Let's start from scratch. Now on the weekly, it's quite clear. It's quite clear, in my opinion, that we can head towards this swing high. Of course, with this candle closing right now, we can head towards the previous candle high, previous week high there first, to then target the swing high right there. Afterwards, it just becomes a matter of targeting the next premium rate, and then the next premium rate, and then the next premium rate. Now, right here on the daily, and this again makes it a little more difficult, on the daily, we do not necessarily have anything clean, as in, we do not have a clear discount array right here that we can continue higher from currently, which makes it a lot more difficult to actually look at where we want to continue higher from. The drawn liquidity again, the bias might be quite clear. How are we getting there? So if we are going higher, where are we going? That's not too clear, right? So right here, if we go on the 4 hour, then ideally, well, we had the clear price action here with the fair value area right there. And afterwards, we just swept the high with what we're seeing on the dollar as well. And after, we did not follow through anymore. So in an ideal scenario, what I would want to see here is new 4 hour value gaps higher right there for me to get involved again. Even a daily value gap higher, of course, would be nice, but it takes quite some time to form a daily value gap already. It takes at least 2 more days. So that takes quite some time. Then it would already be Wednesday. So if we can get a 4 hour value gap higher already, that would be quite interesting as well to look to target higher. The thing I'm aiming at and the thing I'm waiting for is simply set a clear discount array that we can continue higher from. I can go into the 1 minute time frame, of course, and find a discount array, but is that a clear and a strong discount array? No, because if the higher time frame is not even clear, the 4 hours not even clear, the daily is not even clear, then the 1 hour, or sorry, the 1 minute, the 5 minute, they will always show you something. And that is what I meant with the time video, where that's also aligned with time frames, where the 1 minute, the 5 minute, they always have some kind of clean price action, some kind of setup, etc. But the differentiator is time, and the differentiator is also the higher time frame. So the time frame is right there. So ideally, I want to wait for a minimum of 4 hour fair value gap higher right there, to then be confident enough to look for new trades higher as well. Now, if we then move on to EU, and EU, it's simply set the same thought process currently, where it's a lot of the same thought process here, because EU is the same scenario. I expect this to continue higher, potentially. Again, I would want to see new fair value gaps higher, though, if we do want to continue higher right there. In the meantime, I would also want to wait right here. Then for GU, it's the same exact thing where I would also want to see higher prices. Now, before I move on to GU, let me go over EU a little bit more in depth right here. We came into the fair value area. Let me see. Into this fair value area sitting right there. And once we came into the fair value area right there, it's actually this one. Let me see. Yes, that one is overlapping. This one, the first time we came into it, time was not supporting the ID, so the bigger retracement is not that crazy. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal to then continue higher off of that. Now, right here, this is still looking nice to continue higher off that because we're not really sweeping the highs right there. We're not disrespecting the fair value area. The only thing we would want to see right now is that we do have a new fair value gap higher, that we do have price action again supporting the idea of actually continuing higher. That is quite important right there. So that eventually could as well be very nice. But again, we would have to wait for more clear price action sitting right there. Then moving on to GU, it's the same exact thought process where I would actually avoid GU myself. And the reason I would avoid GU is because GU is just not that clear overall. And what I mean by that is GU had the weirdest price action of all. If we look at daily right here, no daily fair value gap until that daily fair value gap right there, which could be interesting if we want to continue higher off of that. But before that, it's just consolidating. And to be honest with you, GU right here has been consolidating throughout the whole year, which is also quite interesting actually, because it's just been very low probability actually right here throughout the whole year right there. Now, of course, I say low probability is a general rule of thumb. Is it extremely low probability and were there any trade IDs? Yeah, for sure, there were trade IDs. But as a general rule of thumb, it was lower probability than other pairs, other instruments. So right here, if we want to continue higher than that daily fair value gap right there, potentially trading into that, then continuing higher off that, waiting for the right confirmation. What is the right confirmation? Could be the 50-minute, could be the 1 hour right there. At least fair value gaps higher to continue higher off of that. That is ideal. Then New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Let me take a look. Let us take a look right here. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. It's sort of similar. And what I mean similar is New Zealand dollar, US dollar can be seen as the GU of the Asia pairs, where Australian dollar, US dollar is the EU of the Asia pairs, which to me is a little bit cleaner overall. And well, cleaner, a little bit more clear right there. Where New Zealand dollar, US dollar is expanding higher a little bit right now and is showing willingness that it wants to continue higher. The only thing is, again, that right here, it is consolidating a little bit. So ideally, you want to wait for new clear price action. And what I mean with new clear price action, I have a thing that I say in a mentorship. And if you're in a mentorship, you'll hear me say it over and over and over. It's whenever in doubt, wait for new fair value gaps. So whenever in doubt and price action is not that clean, you just simply wait for new fair value gaps either going higher or lower. And that is ideally on the 4-hour time frame. That's the sort of the minimum. It can also be on a 1 hour if you have clear context already. But since we do not have anything clear right here, I would want to wait for the 4-hour instead. So it's the same scenario as the other Forex majors right there. I do think we can continue higher, but where are we going to continue higher from? That's a little bit difficult. We can even wait to create a weekly value gap right there to then continue higher off of that eventually. The weekly looks quite clean, but overall, the price action inside that candle is moi. The fair value area, of course, that we're seeing to continue higher off that was all right. But besides that, it's a bit more waiting here. US dollar, Canadian dollar right here. Let's see. It's very interesting right here. And the markup you're seeing is this daily value gap. When we come into the daily value gap, we do not continue lower off that immediately. All right, that's not too crazy. Then there's another premium array in that fair value gap right there that we can continue lower from. That's not the 50% of the fair value gap, at least not for me. That is not an inverse fair value gap. No, that is simply said the previous day high right there. That is the other premium rate that we can continue lower from. If we disrespect that previous day high, then we were likely to continue higher towards the swing high right there. So right here, Once we saw that, we can continue lower off that with a beautiful target. Honestly, that Thursday right there, or the beginning of that Thursday actually, it was late Wednesday, was very clean. It was quite obvious on what it wanted to do, reach those lows right there. Afterwards, we sweep the lows right here to potentially then target again these highs right there. Now, do I want to target those highs as in, remember the fair value and the seeking liquidity story? As in, if we are not offering for value, like we are not doing right there, then we might be seeking liquidity in the form of that high, right? That intermediate term high that we have right there. But the thing is that we need to understand the probabilities, because now we are sort of expecting as well the dollar to continue higher already, which did not really, there was no real price action supporting the idea. So always understand which side of the market to trade towards is actually the higher probability side, where I think bearish price action right here, if we want to continue lower, it's still higher probability overall, unless we get the dollar to shift around and we get a new 4-hour value up higher, for example, on the dollar right now, then we can confidently look to target that high as well. So right here could be interesting, but I want to wait. It's just a little bit 50-50 here for me. I'm not too sure on what it wants to do right there. Based on this sweep, I would say target that high. But on the dollar, I would need more price action to confidently say that we are going higher on the dollar as well, especially if the monthly candle right there is against us on the dollar. US dollar CHF. This overall just hasn't been that nice this week. We have a nice sweep, and it's the same scenario as US dollar Canadian dollar right there, that if we want to follow through on this sweep, then we can look to targets. Quite clear targets, honestly, is that we have, let me show you. We have the swing high sitting right there. My mouse is, all right, perfect, we're back, very nice. That swing high right there is a very nice target, because now we're sweeping lows. We even come into the overlapping defense actually, so a small little order block that we have sitting right there. And then, let me mark it actually, that small little order block, coming into that, and then nice sweep, beautiful rejection, which can already be seen by the wicks, right? So very long wicks. Next target could be the highs right there, short-term targets, right? I do not really want to aim for the moon, because again, that still depends on what the dollar wants to do right there as well. US dollar JPY, sort of a similar scenario. We come into the order block, it's stronger than US dollar CHF, can as well reach those highs, as in the swing high that we are currently looking to target. And what I mean by that is this swing high sitting right there. Now, it can also be very interesting, because if we want to continue lower, then that premium area will likely be the cause that we continue lower. Where I always like to see that, or again, this is very early prediction. Well, not necessarily prediction, but usually when we want to continue lower and we are about to create a top in the market, then what price does, it's sort of consolidating, creates a sharp turn in the form of a wick above a liquidity pool right there to then continue lower, and the fast price action again happens on the other side of our chart right there, on the right side of our chart. So that is usually what happens when the market does want to create a top. So that lines up with this ID. So that could be very interesting overall. But again, if we then come above this high right there, we would have to see, are we sweeping it or are we running it? Sweeping again, fair value gap in. So on the 4-hour, for example, we would want to see a fair value gap in right there and a fair value gap out of that liquidity, below that liquidity pool again. That could be very interesting. In the meantime, I do not really want to do anything on US dollar JPY, to be honest with you. It's not super high probability in my opinion. Overall, we don't really have fair value gaps following through right here. Very odd price action. Don't really like it. Very slow as well. Then if we move on to silver, let's see, silver. Silver is quite interesting because we are coming into a nice breaker right there on the daily time frame, and we already have on the 4-hour a fair value gap higher there as well. On the 1-hour even, we had 1-hour breaker ST. That's beautiful price action, to be honest with you, right here. 1-hour ST right there going higher. 1-hour right there, as I like to call it, going higher as well. To then the 4-hour value gap, which we can again continue higher from. That's very interesting price action overall, and I do quite like that. And if we pay attention to the details, we can also see this 4-hour value gap right there not following through lower. So there's great signs that we want to continue higher for a little bit right here. Targeting these highs right there, that could be very nice price action, and this could definitely be interesting already at the beginning of the week. So why is this interesting at the beginning of the week, and why is EU and GU etc. not that interesting at the beginning of the week? Well, time is throughout the whole week, time is already in alignment. So you can trade whichever day you want to trade. So the only thing you need is price to align currently. And for price to align, the closer you are to your entry model, the better it is to trade it as early as possible. And what I mean by that, this already has a PD rate where you can look for your entry confirmation off of. So that is very close to your entry confirmation, where EU doesn't have a PD rate yet. So there's also no area to look for an entry confirmation just yet. So this right here can be very interesting to look at the beginning of the week right there. For our Vega to continue higher off that. Very interesting price action if, of course, you do get the right confirmation. Very important. Don't just go blindly off of what I say. Gold, similar scenario, but a little bit different. Right here on the 4-hour, we are likely going to continue higher off of a nice fair value area, 4-hour value gap right there, to then continue higher off that. The retracement here can be a little bit bigger because we are opening up on a Sunday, usually, right? So, well, usually 9 out of 10 times, unless you have a bank holiday like on the Indices, etc., where we don't even open up at all, we are going to open up on a Sunday. So right here, because of that, because then time is a little bit slow, the energy is not ready yet, we can have a little bit of a bigger retracement right there to then continue higher off of that right there. So keep that in mind as well, that you still would want to wait ideally for silver, gold, stick to the 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. rule. So what I mean by that, London kill zone, New York kill zone, that's perfectly fine to trade as well right there. So could as well be really interesting right here, gold. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is always very interesting to me because, of course, Bitcoin is probably the most hyped one right here that we have in our forecast list. And with most hyped one, it's the most viewed one. On Twitter, always, it's about Bitcoin. On this, it's always about Bitcoin. At least the bigger news is about Bitcoin. Now, right here on Bitcoin, we've been consolidating, and that consolidation is not that crazy to me, as in we actually saw it coming somewhat, because we are simply stuck between a daily fair value gap right there and this target that we had from that weekly swing high. So the line right here that I'm moving is a weekly swing high. This is a premium array and this is a discount array. So we are in balance, meaning that we are currently trapped. This is a trapped order flow, which you could call it right here. And so if we want to continue higher, which aligns up with the ID that we are creating what? A weekly fair value gap right there with the weekly fair value area right there as well. So if we want to continue higher and we do trade back into that, this could be very nice to then continue higher off of that. So this right there, the third candle, is always a little suspicious. I've not gone over this actually very recently, but I used to go over that quite in depth. The third candle that creates the fair value gap is a little bit suspicious because it can consolidate, it can still continue higher. It's more 50-50. It's less predictable than other candles. So right here, this candle is again the third candle of this fair value gap being created right there. Now, if we want to continue higher, it will create that fair value gap to then continue higher off that. So that could overall be quite interesting. And of course, it's quite funny because again, every small fluctuation right here in price action, every small move higher, every small move lower right there is for Twitter to go crazy about crypto. It's so funny because I was actually quite active in the crypto community before I was active on Twitter with Forex and Indices, etc. And it's always really fun to see. Anyway, for crude oil right here, this is price action that I am most definitely not interested in at all. And I do still think we can still look to continue higher. We've just been struggling. Just very weird price action right here. Now, if we want to continue higher though, then what is the discount rate that we have sitting in this leg right here higher to continue higher from? This swing low. So if we want to continue higher, we might sweep this swing low right there to continue higher from that to then target the highs, which currently becomes equal highs as well. again, I do still think we can continue higher. The overall delivery just has not been that nice right here on crude oil. If we come below that low on the 4 hour, what you would want to see is, again, this creates a fair value area, right? So what I'm always doing in my forecast, I'm taking into account both sides, and I'm letting both sides sort of create an argument, and whichever side is the best argument to me, that is the side I am leaning towards. That is the highest probability side. So right here, if we want to continue lower, then what will we do? We will create a fair value area in the form of these lows right there, with a fair value gap ideally overlapping. And we will continue lower off that. And we will run the liquidity. That's most important, right? If you want to continue higher, and which of course also indicates that we are not continuing lower, we do the opposite. Meaning that we then would like to see a sweep of liquidity. Fair value gap lower and fair value gap higher right there. To then disrespect the fair value area, to then target the highs right there. So that could also be quite interesting. Nifty. I have not been actually looking at Nifty right here. And the reason for that is because overall price action for me, just haven't really liked it right here. What we can see, and if you are struggling to see it, which I can fully understand because there's a lot of gaps on Nifty on the Indian markets. And what I tend to do is turn on no gaps candles right there. And you just get a clear indication of where the fair value gaps actually are, etc. You just see the fair value gaps. You can change the colors again from the no gaps candles to whatever you want them to be, to your normal colors. Then what we're seeing is we just have fair value gaps right there continuing higher. We have an order block or mitigation block right there, fair value area, which we can continue higher from right there. And that is currently what we're seeing. So if we want to continue higher, 4 hour value gap sitting right there as well, which we can continue higher from. Take into account, and the reason I wanted to wait is because that monthly value gap right there. That's what I want to wait for. But currently we're moving away from that. So we can't wait for the rest of eternity to wait for that monthly value gap as well. So we can already look to continue higher a little bit right there as well. Let me see. All right, if you do have any questions about anything, or you want me to go over a different pair, then feel free to ask me, of course. Feel free to ask me. How do you get your lines perfectly straight? What is your trading view setting for straight horizontal line? It's a great question. I laugh because I remember the time where I used to draw lines perfectly like that, not knowing that you can hold shift actually, and it will automatically go in the right manner. And if you hold shift, by the way, then you how do you call it? Then you can do it in a straight line. I also have the magnet on the left turn on, and what that means, I have a weak magnet right there. So whenever I have a line, you'll see it will move my mouse. When I click it, it will automatically get the high right there. If I do not want to do that, then I can hold Control. I believe it's for Windows. For me, it's Command, and I can move away from it, which turns off the magnet really quick right there. You can see that on the left right there. So that is how I do it. So shift, yeah. It's a mind-breaking thing because I also remember the time when I figured that out. Is your broker connected to TradingView? My futures account, yes. Future account, I use TradeAvate right there for the future account. My IC markets, I see it's available right now. It's still in beta, but I don't know. I don't really want to use it. Not really interested. I'm very comfortable with MetaTrader. So for me, MetaTrader, I've traded that long that for me it's fine to trade it. It's like not really a huge difference. Thoughts about inverse fair value gaps? It's not bad. It's not bad, inverse fair value gaps. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on other PDRays because that's not my goal. The only thing, I'm speaking from my experience. So from my experience, inverse fair value gaps, for example, this fair value gap right there, this fair value gap has a fair value gap to the right side. So inverse fair value gaps, from what I notice, we're always going to continue higher or continue lower off of something on the right side of the chart. So then it's going to be a breaker or a fair value gap, just a normal fair value gap on the right side. And then the inverse value gap sometimes lines up with that, but for me it's very random, and it's I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Does not make a lot of sense to me. Where, for example, this right here could also be an inverse fair value gap, but then we have a breaker right there as well. We have this fair value gap sitting right there as well. So to be more accurate, then we can see, we can just use these fair value gaps on the right side, because for me, those are a lot more accurate right there than inverse fair value gap all the way towards the left side of our chart. Then again, it becomes a story where we have inverse fair value gaps everywhere. So it becomes a little bit random for me. But again, it's my personal opinion, right? If you are profitable with inverse value gaps, then that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Can you add a stop loss and target after entry using trade evade? You can, I believe. The thing is, it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if I can show you properly, but when you have the limit order for trading views right here, let me go my paper trading right here. Let me see. Then on this, what you would want to do is, at first you can just market order, you can already put take profit, but afterwards, when you create a market order and you actually buy, can we buy on Bitcoin to show you the example? Let's say we were to buy on Bitcoin right there, and we do not have a stop loss just yet. So we only, because I also tend to do this. Let me see, create limit order right there, and we turn this off, and we want to put it afterwards. Then right here, we are in a trade. Now, it's not your typical Forex thing where you can look at just a take profit and a stop loss. Of course, it's a little bit different. So well, actually here it shows it right there at take profit if you hover above the line right there. But for trade evade, it does not show that, I believe. At least for me, it didn't show that. So what you can do is you can go to the order right there. You can also add take profit and a stop loss right there. And also another method, what you can do is you can do the same thing, create limit order right there. And if we want to sell right there, which is our take profit, then for the same amount we risk, so that's very specific right there. I'm not sure what that actually is. We can just put a sell limit right there at the highs. So let's say at 8 right there, we put a sell limit right there. And that will be your take profit right there. So that is how you can do it. But again, it's you'll discover it. It's not the hardest thing in the world right there. Let's see. Let us see. Hey Aro, I really want to join the spring enrollment, but still waiting the waiting list. How do I now got a spot? I want you to be my mentor. Yes, so for the spring enrollment as well, everyone that gets that is on the application list. Well, not everyone, but the people that are on the application list and that get a lot, or how do I say that properly? They are allowed in. They are on the VIP list, as I like to call it. And what I mean by that is you have an earlier chance to get in because we have limited spots. So the applications right there, the people that get approved, they have an earlier chance to get in. After that, on the weekend, if the spots are not filled yet, so if everyone from the applications joins, then we don't have spots to open up anymore. But if there's still spots open, we will open up on the weekend as well. So that is next weekend, Saturday and Sunday right there, where we only leave it open for a weekend for the rest of the people to join to fill up the spots. So keep that in mind. I will contact you as well. I'll put it on my social media, so don't worry, you won't miss it. If you want active announcements, then the best thing to do is follow my Telegram. That's the best way to put out announcements for me. Do the people in the master mentorship get your live trades? Yes. We go over live sessions as well. Live trades, well, not every trade I take is a live trade. Let's get that out of the way as well, of course. But it's very unrealistic to expect, I believe, because then I would need to record almost for 12 hours on the day. I have no idea in which exact time frame I'm going to take a trade. So, but they do get live trades. Yes, we go over live trades as well in the sessions actually. So yes. Let me see. Alright, how do you separate your private life when you sit in front of the chart and not let it affect your psychology in trading? Yeah, that's difficult. That's difficult. And well, I would argue it's somewhat experiencing that pain, but I think that's a very easy answer. Where it's very difficult because some way or another it's going to affect your private life, right? And I believe especially in the beginning, if you're taking a loss, you're not going to be happy just by turning off the chart. It's not all of a sudden gone. So I do not think that's necessarily a bad thing because that shows you that you want to improve, etc. There's a lot of positivity around that as well. Next to that, how do you or how can you not let that affect you is by creating separate lives right there. My trading life is completely different from my private life. So what I mean by that, when I'm here, I am here and I'm not the Ario that is outside of trading. And I'm a completely different guy. And a lot of times actually when I speak to people, it's quite funny when I speak in Dutch as well, people don't really recognize me because I'm a completely different, more chilled. I'm not that talkative as well. So it's almost creating two personalities, which sounds very weird, but that helps you a lot. Where, all right, the Ario that is a trader took a lot of losses today, for example. And Ario in private life, nothing really happened. We are perfectly fine and we can just enjoy our time with our family. So that takes time, of course, to convince you sort of that. And that's what has helped for me. Ario, can you... Wait, let me see what you said, my friend. Do you have a bird in your room? Yeah, can you hear it? There is a bird here. I'm connected to my garden here, so I have a window here where the bird is flying against. It's flying against the window constantly. It's been doing that for months and months and months. It's crazy. The persistence is gotta admire it, right? Gotta admire it. Let me see. Talk more about spring enrollments. So spring enrollment, for the people that have not heard about it yet, spring enrollment is where we are going to go over all the topics that I go over in a usual enrollment, but usually my enrollments are 1 month long. And for this particular enrollment, I wanted to do it 4 months. So with the first month being a topic of analyst. So you're going to go over steps where you learn how to know where price is trading towards. Then, after that, of course, being an analyst is all fun and games, but then we need to trade. So the execution comes in, where we look to capitalize. How can we capitalize on that idea when we know price is going there? How can we now capitalize on that? Then the next step is MMP, which is a money-making pyramid. It's essentially a very fancy word for everything put together, where psychology is now also incorporated. So we also go over psychology. We go over your full routine. Then in the 4th month, we go over the finishing touch. So everything that has not been touched on yet, or everything that might be a little bit unclear, we go over that as well, an extra time right there. So that is the spring enrollment. Masterclass only. The schedule looks like the following. So if you're not aware of the schedule, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have educational videos. Then on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, there are live sessions for the masterclass as well. So that is how the schedule looks like. And the live sessions are sort of extras. As in the main educational videos, they will be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So there's enough to do, at least. Put it that way. There's enough to do. Is it a psychological issue that I'm scared to spend my profits because the thought creeps in that makes me think that what if my profitability will be lost tomorrow? How do I overcome that? Well, that's actually, it's not too crazy of a thought. And I didn't mention this actually in the video, in the blooper video, but you'll hear a lot of traders say, a lot of mentors as well, is that you need to claim your profits. As in, if you're trading a personal account, if you're trading a prop firm account, that profit is not yours, even though it might look nice in your account, it's not yours until you claim it. So it's a very secure, a very conservative thought process that you actually have, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine, actually. And it's very good, actually, because you want to focus on withdrawing your profits right there. And I believe you should also do that. Because then, in worst case scenario, if something happens, you always can buy a new challenge as well. You always have something, you always have a plan B in that sense, right? That is very important as well. Very important. But I don't think that's a psychological issue. I think that's a very healthy thought process, actually. Well, your profitability will be lost tomorrow. That's, of course, likely not going to happen, but you'll see that for yourself eventually as well. What was your trading aha moment? Well, to be honest, my biggest aha moments came from learning something. So whenever I would watch a video or something, that's when I had my biggest aha moments, because it's always very, it's a very, very addicting feeling to watch a video and to get aha moments. But the biggest, not necessarily aha moment, but the biggest breakthrough moment for me was when I realized I need to stop watching videos and I need to learn for myself. And I preach about that a lot, because that is simply, from what I see in other people, that is from what I see in myself, that is the way to profitability, really. Where copying others you can only go so far. So that was the biggest moment for me. Next to that, it was probably when I learned about fair value gaps, but I used it in the complete wrong way. So when I learned about fair value gaps for the first time, I actually learned it as imbalances. So not fair value gaps. I learned it as imbalances in the market at first, which is a small little difference overall. But when I learned about it, I used to trade towards every fair value gap and off every fair value gap. Of course, completely unprofitable, because I had no idea what I was doing. I would trade towards every fair value gap, just simply clicking sell or buy, no stop loss or anything, it was very funny. But yeah, my biggest aha moment could be that I learned about that. I just liked it. There was something there for me. So since it resonated with me, I studied it and I mastered it. At least I mastered it, in my opinion. Any news about your prop firm funded friends? Yes, still in the works. What we've been doing, I think we've all seen it, the prop firm space, well, not messing up. There's been a lot of factors overall. It's just mainly about the US resident, etc. We want to wait a little bit for that to calm down before we actually dive into it fully, because diving into it when this is happening, I do not think that is a great start overall. So once that slows down a little bit, calms down, if it calms down again, then you'll hear more as well. But launch, most likely, what is it? 2-3 months away still. 2-3 months, so we'll still take some time. Let me see. When did you start trading? I started trading in 2020, 2021, around that time window, 2020, where I started off with, I actually was quite quick with going into the whole ICT stuff. I skipped the support and resistance phases and the trend lines. But I started off with stocks, actually, which was quite interesting. The life has started that pool for some while now. But no worries. You can watch it back afterwards as well. No worries. How long does it take to consistently profit? Really depends really depends. There's not one answer to that question. In general, I always pick as a general rule of thumb. On average, from what I can tell from the mentorship, where I have somewhat of a data, is after 6 months, people get back to me with funded, etc. Are they consistently profitable? As in, they're not messing up anymore? Who knows? They might mess up as well. But consistent payouts, funded accounts, I would say 6 months is doable if you have the right guide. Other than that, I would say it can take years even. It can take 2 years, so it can take 3 years. Right? So it's not too crazy overall. Love to see it shoot here. Love to see it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me see. Explain about the fair value area without fair value gap. Can we continue lower from the mitigation block from only the float? Well, if that's the funny thing, because there is no fair value area for me if there is no fair value gap. And what I mean by that is, if we have a mitigation block, a breaker block, an order block, and there is no fair value gap directly overlapping or close overlapping, then for me there is no mitigation block, there is no order block, there is no breaker block. So here for me, this someone might see this as a breaker block. For me, that's not a breaker block because I need fair value gaps. So this area right there is not a fair value area for me, if that makes sense. So that's quite important to understand, and the reason that is quite important to understand is because those fair value gaps, they create the accuracy for me, and that is also then what eventually is not a fair value area if it doesn't have a fair value gap, because it's not a mitigation block, a break block, or an order block. If that makes sense. Is your course made up of different material than shared on your YouTube? Yes, it definitely is. It definitely is. And to give you an idea, it's a lot more focused on order flow, candle signs as well, which are not necessarily concepts that I go over very in depth on YouTube. Then how to implement that, of course. So it's more of a structured way than the YouTube as well. And overall, just more information. A lot more information. Alright, what's your favorite food? It has to be I love beef, so beef for me is, I like that a lot. And next to that, I would say pizza or something. Pizza. I'm a very simple guy. Pizza for me has always been the go-to. I love pizza. But then the Italian pizza, not the commercial, what is it, New York, Papa John's. No, not necessarily the Italian, the good Italian pizza. Let's see. Thank you from Indonesia, Aro. Thank you, my man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thing is, I'm full-time trading and earning decent profits, but I'm skeptical about spending anything and keep it to offset any possible future loss. This doesn't make me spend. Yeah, I think it's not too crazy, Justice. And I think it's in general, right? With any business, that's a great mindset great mindset. It's a good mindset. It's a conservative mindset, where with business, you do not necessarily want to spend everything right there because you never know what's going to happen. And in trading, it's almost like a business where you don't know if tomorrow is promised. Well, we all don't know if tomorrow is promised, but with a business, you have more financial risk in that sense as well. So that's good to take into account, to have something on the back end as well to keep you safe. Next to that, though, the things you can spend, it's again, try to sort of create a financial scheme for yourself right there, where you have an overview. That's what helps me to try to reinvest something, but not everything, where I now worry about losing everything, if that makes sense. But your thought process is completely natural, I would say. It's what every person has. At least I have it as well. Why are you against giving insights into your trading statistics? When have I ever said that I'm against giving insights on my trading statistics? That's a funny assumption, my man. Let me see. If you lose the trade, how to analyze again the lost trade? Sorry if I'm a bad English. No worries. When you lose a trade, the ideal thing you want to do is you want to take a step back. So you do not want to rush back into the market and analyze it again to then look to recover that loss. Ideally, you want to have the mindset, all right, I just have a losing day after the first loss already, and then diving into the market potentially tomorrow again. Where rushing back into the market, not something you want to do. So the first thing you want to do is, when you have a losing trade, is get mental clarity again. Mental clarity is lost after you take a win, a loss, a break even. Doesn't matter. As soon as you press the buy or sell button, you lost mental clarity. You are not the same person as you were before you actually put on that trade. So it's very important right there to regain that mental clarity, which takes time, which takes journaling, pen and paper, writing down, how do I feel? What do I feel right now? I feel a little bit shitty because I just took a loss. It's completely fine. How can I rebound? How can I bounce back? Time, regaining energy. doing something you like, go for a walk, do some sporting, etc. That's very important. Can you tell if someone is studying with you, did they know everything you know can be profitable? They don't have to know everything I know to be profitable, in a sense, right? It's you'll create your own understanding a lot as well. So do you have to be profitable? And do you have to know everything I know to be profitable? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's like you cross a boundary of profitability eventually, where the boundary for me is already past me. So the boundary for me was already a little bit earlier, and I was profitable with a lot less knowledge than I have today. So it's the same case is going to be for all the other people, if that makes sense. Just curious question. I'm studying economy while learning about trading, and I was just curious what your study background is like. What did you study, or did you go to college? I finished my high school. After high school, I went to university for 2 years, which I stopped, or I dropped out of university. That is not, I dropped out of university to go trading. It was not the plan, not at all. The plan was actually to basketball, professional in Italy. And that's why I stopped my college. And eventually COVID came, where I then started e-commerce and started trading. So I didn't drop out just with thought process, I'm now going to make a lot of money from whatever I'm going to do with trading and e-commerce. Absolutely not. It was just professional basketball. But what I studied in college was, how do you call it in English? It's computer science, I believe. Computer science, studying servers, programming, stuff like that. Programming, not a lot, but mainly server maintenance and internet and stuff like that. I was not very good at it. So have I learned a lot in those 2 years? Absolutely not. Well, I learned that I didn't want to do it. That's what I learned. If you're not against, can you share your analytics such as average RR, hold time, pairs most traded, etc.? Please, just want to see a realistic overview of profit rate. For sure. And average RR for me is 2. So I can confidently say that because I usually target RR of 2. I actually saw, it was very funny. I saw a comment the other day that said, you target very poor RR. And, well, that can be argued. I think 2 RR is a perfect balance between win rate and RR, especially when you're starting out as well. And you do not necessarily need more RR. You need a bigger account. RR, and the higher people aim for RR, for 10 RR, usually when they have a small account and they drop their win rate significantly. So for me, my account is big enough where 2 RR, 2% might be 15,000. And that's not to brag, but that's just to show you the perspective. Where my goal in trading is always to risk the least amount and make the most amount. So I want the biggest account size because that will allow me to risk the least amount where I do not have a chance of blowing that account, and then I can comfortably target a 2 RR where it's still just a bunch of money. And that is my goal. So that is my average RR. Hold time, it really depends. Depends as well which trading plan we are talking about. For Forex, I would say on average about 1 hour. I don't have the specific statistics currently on my screen, so I couldn't tell you for sure. On average, 1 hour, I would argue. Winning trades a lot longer than losing trades or break-even trades. So my winning trades are usually very quick, where it's below 1 hour. It's 30 minutes, something like that. Then pairs most traded. I believe that was actually something like EU for me. Euro US dollar was the most traded, and mainly Forex majors because they tend to have the cleaner setups for me. Win rate is around 80% currently for me as well. Hopefully that makes a bit more sense. Let me see. I'm quite tall. Yeah. I'm 6'5". I'm 6'5". I'm 6'5". Yes. Let me see. I appreciate that, CR Nui. I appreciate that. How to do deep work session, how to find discoveries in a starting stage. Give some tips on how to start. Yeah, so the thing is, with deep work sessions, it's always, you need to be confident enough in your own abilities, or in that you will find something that you just do it. So the way I started deep work sessions, or the way I started case studies, is I had no idea what I was doing. I just had Notion on the other screen, and I had my chart, and I was like, all right, well, let me just dive into it, and I guess I'll find something. And I can break it down a little bit better right now, because what you want to do, you want to have a topic in mind, where I go into deep work sessions with a certain topic. So I likely throughout the week right now, I come up with something, and I think, this is bothering me. I'm not sure how order blocks work, for example. That's bothering me. So I want to study it myself instead of watching a video on it. And that is when you just look at, all right, what do we know about order blocks? Well, they can be down candles and up candles. They might leave behind a Fairvalue gap. Let me actually see what is the correlation between those order blocks holding, and which eventually, that's a whole thought process I went through as well. And let me through to the discovery I made that lower time frame order blocks and Fairvalue gaps, etc., they hold in context areas. So context areas are, for example, right here, from this weekly Fairvalue gap towards the weekly premium rate in front of the swing high. That is where on the lower time frame, the move from that Fairvalue gap towards that swing high, so on the daily, on the 4-hour, order blocks will hold. So the way you come to that discovery is by studying. It's hours of chart time, essentially. So do I have a real concise thing of going about that? Not necessarily. It's just having a Notion next to you. It doesn't have to be a Notion, right? It can be anything where you can take notes. To then go into the chart with that topic, to then just focus and try to see familiar things. Try to see patterns that might happen over and over and over. If that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. It's quite difficult to fully give a thought process on that. Let me see. Let me see. Best way to get over fear in the market. I fear losing a lot for some reason. Yeah, it's a huge part of confidence. Huge part of confidence. It's not necessarily crazy. Every trader sort of goes through the same stages, where it's fear, it's FOMO, it's all these kind of things. And fear essentially can also be a fear of that you're not confident in your trading ability just yet, which is very normal, because if you're just starting out with a strategy, etc., then there is no reason to be confident in an ability, right? So it leads to chart time again, where you need to gain more confidence, and gaining more confidence is gaining more experience, essentially, and doing the thing over and over and over, knowing that your ability to trade is quite good. You can read price action quite good. So that will give you a lot more confidence, and that will also remove a lot of fear, where the confidence sort of takes away that fear, if that makes sense. So essentially, up your chart time. Let me see. Do you take live trades with the MMT? I try to do as much as I can, for sure, with live trades. Regarding live trades with the MMT, 100%. Where we have live sessions, etc. We go over live trades, etc. So yes. Let me see. ICT is a programmer and he programs bank algorithm. Is it true? Well, I can't say that for certain, of course. Who am I to judge? I can't say that for certain, but I personally do not believe that he programmed the bank algorithm. I believe he's a programmer. He's quite good at it. Do I believe he programmed the bank algorithm? I personally don't believe that. But again, I might be wrong. I'm not sure. I don't have a full overview of his life, so I'm not too sure. Let me see. How are taxes in the Netherlands? How do you manage that? Well, taxes are the worst in the Netherlands. They are around 50% for me. So that's just half of the income gone. And taxes, how you manage them through trading, of course, you can play around with the box tree. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. We have box 1, box 2, box 3. Box 3 is your income on your sort of net worth. So the overall capital that you already have, which you already paid taxes over, so you have to pay taxes again. So Which again, don't get me started on that. But anyway, then it reduces to overall a percentage, just 1% over your capital, income, etc. But the thing is, then you would need to not trade for investors, not trade for funded accounts, or you would need to have an account in your own name. It needs to be very specific that it can't be sort of traded actively as well. There's a lot of specific things going into it. So my best advice is find an accountant that is licensed to do it, or at least that has the knowledge to do it, because I do not. I can only tell my own experience. Let me see. I have a strategy. If I have a strategy, the backtest gave me 46% win rate. Do you think that is enough in 3RR? For sure, that is more than enough. And backtesting does not give a lot of accurate results, in my opinion as well. So if you're looking for accurate results, then the only way to find out is really live trading. Really live trading. Hey, thank you, Dalcat. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. You try looking at Bank Nifty instead of Nifty. The price action is way clearer. It's beautiful there. Let me see, my friend. Let me see. I actually thought about that. We might just switch out Nifty right there for Bank Nifty. I'm a rookie when it comes to Indian market, so thank you for telling me as well. Let me see. Bank Nifty. Which one is it again? I always get confused with this. I imagine it's just one of these. Doesn't really matter. It's quite a similar price action, I imagine. Bank Nifty. Yeah, all right. Right here, what are we doing on Bank Nifty? I remember we were talking about this and we were looking at the weekly value gap to potentially continue lower off that, which currently is not doing. And we are creating a bullish weekly value gap actually. So if anything here, I would want to look at higher prices, which is where we also have the fair value area right there. It's actually this one right there. Fair value gap, nested order block as well inside to continue higher off that. It's actually quite interesting to continue higher, not continue lower in my opinion. Let me see. What is happening? GBP JPY. Let me see. GBP JPY. Yeah, the thing I don't like about GBP JPY, but well, that's what I in general don't like, is when we're above highs. What I mean by that, then the target becomes a lot more difficult. Where I now have to force a target that's all the way to the left side of my screen right there. So that could be a target right there, the weekly order block. And if we look at how can we deliver there? Well, daily, we have daily fair value gaps higher right there. We have no weekly fair value gaps higher just yet. Daily fair value gaps higher, even the order block sitting there as well. Could be very nice to continue higher off that. It's quite interesting actually. It's, to be honest, it's quite a nice price action. Quite like that. What is your win rate? My win rate is above 80% currently. It's above. It's been increasing as of lately as well. It's above 80%. Depending on what asset class we're also talking about, of course. Futures might be a little bit lower. Around as well 80%. Around that. Forex is higher for me. And again, my win rate is not an accurate. It's not accurate to aim for 80% in your backtesting to then go into live trading, because that will not happen. That win rate can only be achieved if you truly start live trading and you allow that experience to come to mind, right? Where just backtesting, when I started that strategy, I also did not have an 80% win rate through backtesting. So that's not the reason why I then went into live trading. It's just purely that I went into live trading and did it over and over and over and over again, which allowed me to increase my win rate, if that makes sense. Do you drop /half risk during a losing streak and facing drawdown, or do you keep it at 1% and trust your strategy and trust the winning trade will return? Ideally, you want to have trades where you risk the same amount for 2 times in a row. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of times where people lose one trade, they immediately drop risk. And it's not necessarily bad, but if you don't have an extremely high win rate, you're going to be in a break-even cycle for a very long time, where you take a loss with 1%, then you take a winner with 0 to 5%, that equals to 1%. So you're going to, if 2RR is target, of course. So you're going to be in a break-even cycle, where then you take another loss, and then you take another win, and again, the same thing happens, break even. Where if you stick to the same risk, then you are going to be profitable. So the risk right there, it plays a huge role. So the thing I want to tell you is that try to focus on trades where you have the same amount of risk twice in a row. So if you take a loss, do not necessarily drop immediately. Maybe after the next loss, drop it right there. That's what I usually do. Are you practice meditation, do exercise, or execute habits? Yeah, well, controlling the mind is of course a huge part, not only in trading, it's a huge part in life in general, I would argue. Where I do exercises for that in specific. I have exercises, for example, what I used to do at home in the Netherlands. Whenever a car drove by, I would say myself, it's sort of a habit. I even set alarms for that, where I need to have the mental clarity and tell myself, are you conscious? And what I mean by that is sort of waking up, like, how am I feeling? What am I actually doing? It helps a lot in your trading, where if you can all of a sudden create that habit and you're in the trade and you feel like, all right, what am I actually doing? How am I feeling? And might be very stupid. It sounds quite stupid in my opinion, but it's extremely beneficial, because when you become aware of that mental state, then you're more in control of yourself. And that is how I go about it. Meditation, I did meditation for a lot of time, but I don't really do it anymore, to be honest. It's meditation is always good, so it's always a good thing to do. You can always pick up on it 100%. How many trades do you take approximately in a month? Well, currently with futures, because I've been trading futures as well a little bit more, I trade a lot more, meaning I might take 2 trades a day, or I would say around 6 trades a week maybe for futures, which then stacks up to 24 trades a month for futures. For Forex, it might only be 2 trades a month or 4 trades a month, because I'm just waiting for the A+ setups. The account size is big enough where I don't have to rush in as well. So 1 trade is enough to get a good income out of that. So it really depends right there. Forex overall in general is lower for me. But it's also the Forex is not because Forex has lower opportunities, it's because the way I operate in Forex myself. So I use different time frames in futures compared to Forex. Are you still watching ICT videos? No. I have not watched an ICT video in a very long time, actually. In a very long time. You still trade Delirium, right? Yes. Delirium. That's the name of the trading plan. Yes, that's the Forex trading plan though, Delirium. And for futures, I use a different trading plan. Which Forex pair do you suggest as a beginner starts with at the execution stage? I would advise to start with one of these. Australian dollar, US dollar, EU, GU, and the other ones right there. Those are Forex majors, so the most volatile throughout the week as well. And you're going to need volatility, especially in the beginning stage. You do not want to get caught up in endless consolidations. I think it's easy to make mistakes in backtesting because you're going so fast and you can even miss winning trades. That is it perfectly summed up. And I mentioned this a lot of times as well to the MMT actually. When I use a replay tool, I just go fast. As in, sometimes I miss daily value gap, sometimes I miss certain things about price action that I would not miss in live price action because I'm just going too fast. And you can say, well, just slow down then. But for me to fully slow down, it would need to be real time and not that I can still click a button right there to move further. It's just, I don't know. I don't like backtesting. I'm curious, why did you name it Delirium? Well, it's funny. I heard delirium, the word delirium, in a song actually. And when I heard it in a song, I was like, what does that mean, delirium? And it makes you feel nauseous or something. It's some kind of weird meaning. I don't know. The word to me is it's a very, very, very funny word. It's a very funny word. So I like the word. Let me see. Euro CHF. I'm giving the man Euro CHF. Let me see. Give that man Euro CHF. Let me see. All right, Euro CHF. Yeah, this is quite interesting right here. And the reason it's quite interesting is the weekly for value gap, not super interesting. So the question becomes, what are we going to reach first? This swing high or the weekly for value gap to continue higher off of that? I think we're going to reach that high first right here. We have a daily value gap, which we're already continuing higher off of. Then 4 hour right here, The only thing I'm not super interested in it myself is because it's a very small area for it to now create an opportunity right here before it already delivered towards the target. And this target is ideally also the end of the week for Euro CHF right there. So then we would have to see afterwards how we want to react above that high. Do we sweep it? Do we actually run it? If we sweep that high, then we can potentially look to target the weekly value gap right there as well. But beginning of the week, this swing high is the target right there. So trading towards that is quite interesting. What is the difference between futures and Forex? It's, and correct me if I'm wrong, any futures experts that might be out there. I'm quite new to futures myself. So the main difference for me is the way the contract sizes are calculated. So that is let me see, is everything all right? Can everyone hear me? I got a notification that let me see, I got a notification for my stream that there might be something wrong. So if anything is wrong, you cannot hear me, and please do let me know. Anyway, the difference between future and Forex is mainly the contract that you are trading as well, where it's a little bit different. And futures is not necessarily trading a currency. It's futures. So it's indices, for example. You also have currency contracts for the futures contract for currencies, which if you want to trade that, then that's also perfectly fine to trade. It's mainly the contract is the difference. It's the most important difference. Where futures also, I would argue, especially indices, if you are looking at that, it's a little bit more accurate, a little bit more volatile as well. I can hear you. Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you. I get disconnected for a few seconds. All right. Yeah, that's on my side. That's on my side. Let me see. Do you trade on 1 minute on futures, or your lowest execution timer is 5 minutes? 1 minute. 1 minute. Yes, for futures. So since it's a different trading plan as well, 1 minute. 1 minute. Yes. AUS 200. Let me see. I've never done analysis on AUS 200 actually. Let me see. What is happening right here? Are we at all-time highs? Yes, we are. All right. So I imagine this also heavily follows the other indices. I could be wrong, but that is what I imagine by seeing this. Look at this all-time highs. Do we have something overlapping right there? Well, we have a weekly value gap, which is quite interesting right there, which we could currently continue higher off of. Because then this becomes the target right there, the short-term target. And if we want to continue higher, how will we continue higher? Well, 4 hour value gaps, actually quite nice price action overall. Quite interesting. 4 hour value gaps, 1 hour value gaps to continue higher off that. Then look to target this high right there. That could be very interesting. Do quite like that. A pullback is important. Depends. Sometimes I don't want to see a pullback, but sometimes I do want to see a pullback. Really depends. Really depends on the overall context. Really depends, my friend. Your style is kind of a waiting game then. Yeah, I think in general, trading is a waiting game. And it really depends, of course, how you approach it, because I have two approaches where for Forex, I rely more on the higher time frame, etc. A lot of waiting, a lot of waiting, almost waiting where people get uncomfortable. That is how long I wait for a trade setup on Forex, for the highest probability trade setup. For futures, I can trade or can find a trade ID daily. As in there's a good trade ID for me daily in futures, I would argue. And then it's still waiting, of course, for that trade setup to play out, but it's a lot faster price action. And that's just the combination of time frames, because essentially I do the same on the higher time frame for Forex, but I don't really want to go into the lower time frame for Forex. Just I prefer indices for the lower time frame and futures for the lower time frame. I prefer that more. And also futures are less manipulated thanks to the central operation over Chicago. That's very true. Yes, very true. It's just overall the price action, you'll really notice it. If you've been trading Forex forever, on the 1 minute, on the 5 minute, whatever it is, once you switch to indices, you will see more accuracy, a lot of beautiful price action at least. Let me see. Can you review the GB Canadian dollar trade from 22nd of February London session? My entry was on the flat breaker after the creation of the breakaway gap on the 1 hour. Let me see, my friend. Let me see. GB Canadian dollar. GB. What are we actually doing on GB Canadian dollar? That weekly right there. On the 22nd right there. All right, that's a nice daily value higher. That is a nice daily value higher right there. And it was on the 1 hour you mentioned, right? My entry was on the flat on the breaker after the 1 hour. Let me see. That's a beautiful entry. Yeah, that's a beautiful entry. First leg right here. Well, this right here, was this the entry first or that entry right there? Both 22nd of February. I was looking at this scenario right here because we have a clear sharp turn right there. This is a little bit more lethargic price action with a huge candle going low right there, which is not necessarily interesting to me. Of course, at that moment in time, it's a whole different scenario where the trade ID might still be great right there overall. But at this moment in time, and if we're talking about this breaker, then that's a beautiful trade. That's a beautiful trade. That's textbook. That's a beautiful sharp turn right there, where you can see the difference between sharp turns. The sharp turn on the left, which did not hold right there, it's also not the highest probability. This one right there is the highest probability sharp turn right there. That's beautiful. So then sharp turn, because it's a breakaway gap, continue higher. Yeah, it's a very nice trade actually. Very nice trade. It's a beautiful trade. First entry London session. Okay. Then I imagine it's the one to the left. This one right there. Let me see. Yeah, overall, it's not a bad trade idea. At that moment in time, it's not a bad trade idea. Let me state that very clearly. It's not a bad trade idea right there. I think this is a great trade. I just think it's one of those loss you have to take on the chin right there. Because eventually it does play out. I do not necessarily think this is a bad trade idea. It fits all the boxes. What we can do is our risk management can be very, very, very strict right here. And what I mean by that is at this moment in time, we are already coming into the breaker. So can you see the long wick right there that we had right there? The long wick. This, if the entry, I'm not sure where your entry was, if it was exactly at that line, but this in itself can already be a reason to trill your stop loss to be break even very early. And the reason for that is because the only thing the next candle can do, or the next candles can do ideally right there, is being up candles. Because otherwise we will be respecting or disrespecting the fair value area, which leads to this right there. So paying attention to those details, that's what we can do. Why is the second one higher probability? If you go off of the 1 hour right here, let me go to the 1 hour. If you go over the 1 hour right here, then this first movement into the daily value gap right there is, well, it's creating a sharp turn, just not the highest probability. And what I mean by that, a clear and the highest probability sharp turn is a fair value gap into the PD rate, fair value gap out of the PD rate. Very clear, very obvious. Where here I almost have to force the ID that I'm seeing a fair value gap right there, very small fair value gap. And next to that as well, we have fair value gap in right there again, fair value gap out, which creates overlapping fair value gaps, which you might know as well as a BPR, etc. That's the highest probability sharp turn right there. That is a small difference in probabilities overall. When are you announcing the spot for the 1 month masterclass? That is going to be coming next week. At the beginning of the week, we'll go over the applicants. And then at the end of the week, everyone else will also get a chance to get into the masterclass if the spots have not been filled by the applicants just yet. All right, on that note, I'm also going to end it currently. I want to thank everyone for being here. Great being back as well with the live streams. I really enjoy doing them. Next to that, keep in mind what we talk about. That's very important. Take it easy as well for the rest of your Sunday. If it's already evening, then sleep well. And I'll see everyone at the next one. All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone.